This is a picture of an owl next to the judge's desk, and this is George Floyd's girlfriend. Now I'm wondering, that might be a fox. This article I read said the Bohemian Grove incorporates the owl, and the bird serves as a mascot of the club. Standing as a symbol of knowledge, the owl shrine is said to play a role in what is called the cremation of care ceremony that allegedly takes place every year. The owl also serves as a symbol related to the guardianship of the underworlds, a connection to magic and the occult. So next time you see a celebrity with a t-shirt depicting an owl or a musician wearing a gold pendant in the shape of an owl, don't take for granted that it's not another sneaky way of showing their support for a secret society or representing the historic or ancient meaning behind owl symbolism. And if you think that's a fox, just know fox and adrenochrome are right by each other. Fox means arrest, and the same numbers for fox are back the blue. So there's 356 and 45 are fox, as is back the blue, 356. So why would an owl be taped on the side of a judge's desk in a courtroom? She mentioned that picture of George Floyd was a dad selfie, and you look at dad selfie and the anagram is as defiled. She's just now saying that Floyd's COVID test was positive. She said hers was negative. She said that he was quarantining, but he was out and about, so I don't get that. Okay, so see how they put everything in our view. So there's also a green bottle. She just talked about Floyd having COVID. They mentioned the hospital, which hospitals is George Floyd. So she has to wipe away the tears that kind of aren't there. She's got to get her bottle of water. And she's going to go for the hand wash. Watch this. So, hand wash. First green bottle, American first, and the Torah code is fiber optics. Fiber optics is the foundation for 5G. And Corona vaccine. This talks about book of Genesis, which is C sign, and we're going to show you that book Genesis, the word periods that was brought up, and here California, here I come. I wonder what that's about. But the word hand wash is heaven's gates, or gates heavens, or heaven's stage, or stage heavens, because gates and stage are the same thing. There's the word Genesis again, and Troy, and Chauvin, same as hand wash. She said his roommates had COVID, so they, of course, have to bring in the COVID for this whole conversation. Notice the yellow V, and that's Mrs. Ross. He's interviewing her, and again, you know, we got that arrow in the background. So this is a screen capture of the Super Bowl halftime show, and do you notice the arrows? Kind of thought that was a weird thing when I saw that. Notice what could be a hangman's noose there? And also in this trial, they mentioned the word football too, and football means trip, which is T-R-I-P, rest in peace. But anyhow, there's your NFL. There's the football. There's their little satanic ritual. So I just think this is kind of funny, because when you look at these numbers and add them up and go a little crazy on these guys, And these are the Buccaneers finishing up, or maybe halftime show, I don't know, but they're at the Super Bowl 55 that was on February 7th. So when you add all these guys' numbers up, they equal 480. So 480 equals Floyd. And Netflix. And God number code. It also equals Pfizer. Okay, before I get any further into this video, I wanted to just run over some really quick things regarding George Floyd's name. So Floyd, the anagram is do-fold, and it could be looked at as do-fold, as in direct energy weapon. George Floyd is R gold eye fog, and the gematria of gold eye is the same as sacrifice, crown, panic and DC, children, sound, and fray. You look at the word fray, the definition is the Norse god of fertility, crops, peace, and prosperity. That would look like a good thing. Except fray, Norse god, is also looked at, the anagram is owners. And owners, you could look at that as, it says, an outstanding person or thing, and or a heavy blow. So could fray be a heavy blow to fertility, crops, peace, and prosperity? George Floyd is also our defy Google, our Googled fray. George Floyd is also defog e-glory. And just Floyd's name, F-O-L-D, our fold Y, and Y in gematria is all, pi, Fema, Jack, and Jack is JC, Ka. That's Jack, that's the anagram, and then JC is Jesus Christ, and Ka, we've seen, looks like cause. So fold all or fold cause. George Floyd is also goofy ledger, and the ledger is a book of collection of accounts in which transactions are recorded. Godly forge. So forge, to form by heating and hammering, beat into shape. Leery god fog. And it's kind of funny when you look at leery, the thesaurus in leery says, if city officials were leery of cutting police personnel to close the existing $124 million gap, or even part of it, they may turn to the almost $72 million in the city spends from its general fund in the personnel side of the police budget. So that's sort of funny that that comes up under the thesaurus. Okay, oops, I have one more. Godly foe erg. So foe is an enemy in war, personal enemy or opponent. And erg, it's a Greek word meaning work or task. So that godly enemy task, and you look at ka, and I think it's cause, that ka also is a spiritual entity believed to live within the body during life and to survive it after death. And we go here, Ka by Cirque du Soleil is the greatest theater production the world has ever seen. So Cirque du Soleil, it's like the circle, the ring of the soul. This is a picture for the word soleil, but to me I look at that and it looks like soul lie, or lie soul in the background. Maybe that's why they want to use Lysol for this whole COVID pandemic thing. I mean, that little sun, notice they have the sun in there. And this is weird, the Cirque with the big Q, Cirque du Soleil, Cirque du Soleil. Notice their sun, notice the black and white. But look at this, religious travel planning guide. That's sort of weird. So you look at this word, soleil, look at it backwards, L-I-E, that's lie, and then soul. Anyhow, I think more things are connected than people notice. So 480 also equals RY, enemy, rat poison, Pfizer, the beast, the lamb is on his head, bryant and throne. Is it like throne, like Game of Thrones, like take a knee? So I looked at these numbers real quick. The 73 is peh equals mouth in the Bible. That's what that equals. The 84 plus 72 right there is 156 equals AIpha, fo, as in fee, fi, fo, fum. IQ and mega as huge or big, giant. 84 minus 72 is 12, which brings you down here. The 78 plus 12 brings you over here to 90, which is alpha, which is first, alpha and omega, the beginning and the end. The beginning is alpha. Looking at 84 alone, it's globe or dead. These two pumpkins added up is 150. 76 and 74 equals pi, FEMA, Cali, C, and all. Now 78 by his little lonesome is Ebola, Helen, as in Troy, goal. D, Geico, is the beginning of the end, Geico. M, JC, and CIA. 11 equals Ka and Fee, as in Fee, Fi, Fo, Fum. There's 78 and 11 as in red, as in the red hat at the trial, and red hat for MAGA. 78 minus 11 is 67, which equals Kobe and a king. And all this gas that they're showing, gas equals BLM. The 12 and 78 together equals 90. That's phi. So this is March 30th. This is day 2 of the trial, and they continue to make a big deal about the arrow. Now, arrow is also equivalent with 1111 is the numbers for arrow, and it's also equivalent to Gates DOD. Okay, so looking at DARPA really quickly here. DARPA is the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, research projects, for Research and Development Agency of the United States Department of Defense, responsible for the development of emerging technologies for use by the military. So people fund DARPA. We fund DARPA by paying our taxes. Anyhow, originally known as the Advanced Research Projects Agency. The agency was created on February 7th, 1958 by President Dwight D. So formed February 7th, Advanced Research Projects Agency. I wonder who and what they're researching. The jurisdiction is the federal government of the United States. So looking at February 7th, that would be 2-7. Just if you look at the Gematria, 2-7 equals Cabal and Debbie, I big, among other things. But here's the little Debbie. Notice the twin packs, as in Our Worst Winter, which would be Twin Towers. See the 3 layers? Just looking at that, the 3 layers are like a E. I'm looking at Operation Warp Speed because they're also defense government, was a public-private partnership initiated by the United States government to facilitate and accelerate the development, manufacturing, and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics. They were only active from May 15th to February 24th. So they're not active anymore, but they're part of U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and other various government agencies, like other public-private partnerships. Notice the 4 stars on each side. That would be 4, 4. Notice in the middle, that little nuclear thing looks like a Q, and that 3-bar thing looks like an E. See that E? 3E is Gates' life and death. 203. So let's just look at the word diagnostics. Diagnostics can be, if you look at the anagram, sadist incog, like incognito, sadistic G-on, like G could equal God, and sadistic no, playing with the words. We could look at this as sadistic incognito. You can't really see who's in there because they've got a mask on. According to psychiatry, the definition of sadist is a person who has the condition of sadism in which one receives sexual gratification from causing pain and degradation to another. A person who enjoys being cruel. Would this be considered degrading and putting fear in people, going out in public? Everyone has to wear a mask because they're so in fear for their lives, being out in public, having to be checked if you're in public, getting in trouble if you're in public and you're not wearing a mask. Would that be degrading and putting people in fear of going out in public places? So looking at incog regarding diagnostics, we see this incog biopharma. Incog boa pi harm could be another anagram. Another anagram for incog biopharma is hog impair bacon. So this is another public-private partnership, I guess. And has anyone heard that new thing coming out? I think it's called hog rights, where they're trying to get farmers to give up their absolute rights to raise the hogs for livestock. That would be a hog impair bacon. So incog biopharma equals nim agoraphobic, and agoraphobic is a fear of being out in public. And I think that what people have been led to be fearful, being in open and closed spaces, standing in line, or being in a crowd, and crowd is D-crow. You're agoraphobic if you don't want to be out in crowds and you feel trapped. So diagnostics, to sadist incog, and the incog biopharma agoraphobic. You're afraid to go in places, and let's look at NIM. Now, I thought this was interesting. NIM is a mathematical game of strategy in which two players take turns removing objects from distinct heaps or piles. On each turn, a player must remove at least one object and may remove any number of objects provided they all come from the same heap or pile. And here's their little picture. Now, here's a little heap or pile of shoes. And this was from 75 years after Auschwitz liberation. Survivors urge world to remember WITF, and that could be, look at the anagram, W-fit. Here's another pile of objects, which are rings. These are wedding rings of Holocaust victims during World War II in a concentration camp. They gathered all these rings. Now, I guess in this game, the NIM, you can pick those rings. Now here's a pile of suitcases from victims at Auschwitz. And look at this. Hannah, what is that? Hannah Fuchs? Number 645. That's a pile. Let's look at Hannah's number 645. 645, I am Raymond. Is that like the Raymond James Stadium? Skynet is 645. There's your net. Here's a pile of same objects. By Reddit, it says, who cleaned up corpses during World War I? And Reddit, if you look at the anagram, is died RT. RT equals sun, SS, Caesar, sleep. There's RT. RT is code of code. It's also gold, like those wedding rings, and death and Kabbalah, fire, Noah. So this little visual of NIM, the matches, it almost looks like it could be the Empire State Building. And also it looks like it could be the Daily Pass logo. Look at the buildings, they all kind of looks like the Empire State Building. And it also looks like the LIV, like the trophy for the Super Bowl 55. And there's your little crematorium stack. Do we see any similarities in here? Look, the fourth tallest building. They like the number 4. So looking at the symbolism of that Empire State Building, and I thought that they kind of looked similar, Super Bowl trophy and Empire State. So I looked a little bit deeper into this. This illustration here was 1931, Glenn Autumn Coleman. Anyhow, he drew this. And that's the Super Bowl 55, this last Super Bowl we just had. So the Super Bowl, the simple gematria is what I'm looking at. It's 131, and the Empire State happens to be 131 as well. And for some reason, look, they didn't even have it in the database. They do now. So what these both have in common, being the simple gematria of 131. So there's, look at that, William Gates. We can't get away from him. I keep saying that, but it keeps coming up. Also, Don J. Trump, Make America Great, the Garden of Eden. And this is the Super Bowl's 1407 Jewish gematria. Look at that Superb Owl. That's same with both Empire State and Super Bowl. Have Superb Owl. Silly Rabbit trips are for kids. And remember, trips is football, is trip. See the word football? We're going to scroll down here, and trip is the second word. And they mentioned football in the Derek Chauvin trial. And football and trip, their end of time. Super Bowl and Empire State, or Empire, is also the Alpha and the Omega. John Kennedy, Super Bowl, Ray's House, Death by 1,000 Cuts. Empire State is 485 and 131, and 485 is protest and human sacrifice. Also, we see the word sand a lot. Stormy comes to mind, and our Sandy, and there's a storm, sandstorm. Prince of the Lion, monsters, and there's that family, Rothschild. They're behind many things. Empire State is also QAnon drops. Rye, as in Catcher in the Rye, because that's a big mind control scenario that if people read that book, you can get mind controlled, and illuminating. See, so when people don't think that everything is sort of created and manipulated, and the writers and the creators do this intentionally. Oh yeah, one more thing. So Super Bowl 1407, and look at that number 2, like poo. Oh my God, it's also 131. So number 2 is also Empire State Building and Super Bowl. These guys had troubled childhoods, is all I can say. This looks like a wheel within a wheel. Now here's the guy, Butner, who came out initially on a football field to introduce the daily pass. I've showed it in some videos before. He was on a football field. This is covering his message from Superintendent Butner in the DN, I guess it's a newspaper or whatever, but that's DN, like the end, and D-Day, the beginning of the end, Operation Warp Speed. And here's Butner, here's his name, and looking at the anagram, it could be B-retune, as in stage notes and Gates tones that I showed in some earlier videos. And also in this article, the next thing right next to it was Grace Brethren football. I mean, they talked about football there, so they're always trying to tie it in. And if you think I'm going too far off base, here's DARPA. They were formed February 7th as ARPA, it's Advanced Research Projects Agency, but now they had to change it to the Defense Advanced Research Projects. And looking at Operation Warp Speed, they look at it as OWS, and OWS could be looked at as sow, like a pig. See the pig? See the pig? See the little pig, sows? So OWS is solve the code and work. It's also adrenocorticotropic hormone. It's also vaccine, moon, Tesla, and Bible code. And George, as in Floyd, and black man. See, 57, same thing. See, same numbers. But the DARPA date, February 7th, and the Super Bowl 55, they have something in common because that was Super Bowl was February 7th in Florida, and Tom Brady was the quarterback, and Tom Brady's numbers are 667 and 98, but Ray's A and O, that's Ray's Alpha and Omega. That's Raymond code, it's close to the finish line, identity, contagion, and black is king, as in 201, as in event 201 with Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba, the Johns Hopkins University with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the whole tabletop exercise. It started off this whole mask wearing incident. It gets more drawn out and deeper than that, but just for now, the February 7th is significant, 2-7. And 2-7, they do everything for a reason. Arrows also mean hidden knowledge, electric, big pharma, Air Force, e-robot, QAnon, Nestle, and major storm. Now here he just offered Exhibit 184. And 184, they are looking at this girl right here, and they keep bringing up numbers, Exhibit 184, and she points her out with the arrow, and then the attorney makes a little bit of a big deal that he can't see the arrow. He keeps repeating the word arrow, the arrow's on the screen, the arrow's on the screen, and he asks the judge to repeat it. So they're focusing on the arrow, and they mention the arrow again. The judge just mentioned the arrow, and he said, no, I can't see anything. He's looking at the arrow. And the attorney's going back and making the witness point out her friend Alyssa with the arrow again. So they keep repeating the arrow theme. And this is Exhibit 184, and I didn't die are the words. 184 is also camps, as in FEMA camps. He's mentioning the word periods of time. He did it 3 times. Periods, periods, periods of time. So in here in Genesis, the very first thing is by periods. And that guy kept repeating the word periods 4 times so far. And notice the footnote there, by periods, it says 1, literally means by headships. So taking one little bite at a time here, look at the word by periods. By is in Gematria is so it begins. Here are other numerical values to the word by is code, sag, which is gas, agod, and BLM, among others. Looking at the word periods, it's pi redos, as in a new world order. So here's redos, and to do over again, redo the walls in red. Now why would they say that? You can also look, I think that's pronounced redos, in software, and it's a denial of service. Oh, a denial of service attack. Extreme situations, and then hang for a very long time. Do you guys remember a long time ago where I was covering the pirates? And so here's Kid. He's with chains and encased in an iron framework. It says Kid's body hangs as a grisly object lesson at Tilbury Point in Thames Estuary. It says many a sailor who turned pirate vowed to blow himself to hell rather than be hanged up drying as Kid. There he is. There's your ships in the background. Here's what it talked about the sailors, rather blow themselves up to hell rather than be hanged by drying. The word by periods is PR disobey. Are they getting a lot of PR out of this event? So by, meaning so it begins, reminds me of that little song, sew a needle pulling thread, remember the doe a deer? When I looked at the anagram, sew a needle pulling thread, a new seed line dug hell trap. And the word so for gematria is vaccine the mark, and needle is AI DNA or link as in inky, and QI or Q as in QAnon. Pulling thread in gematria, sun corona, ray god December, and Ezekiel. Remember Ezekiel? I'm just looking at the word thread alone is gas fire, beast, and big pharma. The word periods can also be looked at as ID ropes or die pros. 354, tribe of Dagon, Lord of light, Omega god of light. That's the end god of light, and I can't breathe. I went to go look at what Lord of light is. I thought it was Lucifer, but all I came up with was the Game of Thrones. And here's the Lord of Light. They talk about Bran Stark is the Lord of Light. And the anagram is our tan barks. So here are some tan barks on the 5G, the poles. So here's a light pole, the tan bark, and notice, let's see here. Anyhow, radio frequency fields beyond this point may exceed FCC limits, and here, please use disconnect switch or contact the American cell. There's a number you can call, 740-66, of course it has 66 in it, 660-1028 for disconnect instructions. So why don't we all call this number and get a big old disconnect? How about that? NOC. NOC can be looked at as con. You see that? Con. And this says in accordance with FCC rules. Well, rules aren't laws, are they? Anyhow, con. And here's the dark cable. And when we look at Blackbeard the pirate, his anagram is B dark cable, which is what that is. Dipros, it reminds me of assassins. Here's assassin. They're the numbers 411, 606, and 101. I can't, is that breath? Breath is a noun, the air you take into your lungs and let out again when you breathe. So just one more quick thing. So periods, when I looked at the anagram, again, SEI prod. I see this website, it's SEI, and it talks about AI engineering report highlights needs and challenges to focus on emerging discipline. I wonder if that was emerging discipline, what Chauvin did. You think that's what we'll have to look forward to? Anyhow, they have these arrows, and they have all these cogs and wheels, and they have a dog with a mask, and dog backwards is God. So there are a few things I was curious about why the Scotty dog, and let's look real quick. Okay, there's apparently there's a moon behind him. Then there's that bow. We've seen the bow as in Super Bowl or Super Bowl. I mean, bow is pretty high up on this list, the Gematria list. And if you see here, there's the satanic ritual abuse. The simple Gematria is 40, and there's Fauci and TT also, and IM. Q. Later in this video, we're going to see where the letters TT come into play on a Boeing 707. TT has the value of 200. It's father, people, disciple, and pork, and bloodline. I looked at the word Scotty dog, and Scotty dog is Microsoft and Moonshot, and decipher gas sign. This SEI, the leader in software engineering and cybersecurity company. These are the symbols on their web page, and we've looked at arrows, and that means or wars. There's your wheel within a wheel, the cog. So we'll also see on their web page, they have this huge design of these cogs and the wheels, and that goes into the Bible that I'm going to cover, the wheel within a wheel, or the wheel within a circle. And then inside the circle, you'll see a little bit of what could look like a sun. It's in the underneath the first wheel. So in here, very proudly, it says, at the SEI, we research complex software engineering, cybersecurity, and AI engineering problems, create and test innovative technologies, and transition maturing solutions into practice. We have been working with the Department of Defense, government agencies, and private industry, there's your private-public partnership, since 1984 to help meet mission goals and gain strategic advantage. I wonder over who, though. Who are they talking about? When we look at their logo, I looked at the Scottish Terrier, and it says initially one of the Highland breeds that were grouped under the name of Skye Terrier. So I wonder if the word Skye has something to do with their choice in this dog. So just looking at the word Scotty, here are their numbers, info alignment, Lord's coding, God's the Omega, Grim Reaper, lungs, as in I can't breathe, hunted, and AO, Lord God. Also has Phoenix, radiation, and pedophile. The value also is, for Scotty, is end of time and PSYOP. So the values for Scotty Dog and the Microsoft, it's also God's school. But when I thought of God's school, it made me think of this, the Daily Pass. And remember Austin Butner here? There's a lot of things in this. So he is the LAUSD guy that adopts Microsoft Daily Pass program, coding kids for school reopening. Now there's a lot of things in this picture that you can look at, the maroon or the burgundy. There's a baseball player in the back, and look at all the frames and this yellow bus. There's also the ABC baby. We all know about the 3-letter alphabet companies or organizations. When I looked at the word frame, because there's so many back there, frame is Papa, A plan, false, germ, tick as in TikTok, mark as in the mark of the beast, goat, and panic, LIV. And LIV is how that was the trophy for the Super Bowl. And look at the yellow wave in the book. Book could be like Bible, but okay, a yellow wave. So I've been seeing the yellow coding a lot lately. So this yellow school bus was just one of the reasons what made me want to look at the color yellow. Oh yeah, and LAUSD is duels. So who are they dueling? So I went and looked at colors in the Bible. So they're darn tootin' when they say rich with meaning, I can tell you that. So this mentions the King James Bible, and you know what, the King James, they are Masons. But this talks about the Hebrew lexicon is brown for the color yellow, and gleaming. And see the word TSA Hob? I don't know how to pronounce that. But this is funny because Strong's Hebrew 6669 for this word, and it means gleaming yellow. So in this Hebrew Bible Hub, it talks about the yellow is unclean. So that's a phonetic, Sa'ob. So King James Version says yellow basically is brown. I wonder if that's anything to do with Winnie the Pooh. So this says there are 2 Hebrew words for yellow in the Bible. The first is charut, usually referring to the gold as in Psalms 68:3, whatever, and that other is saub, which refers to the color of hair or skin of someone who is ill. It says often leprosy is mentioned in Leviticus 13:30. It also says yellow and gold are used to describe fire, and fire represents the presence of God. Which God, though? So saub and is like the skin of someone who is ill. and leprosy is mentioned. So in the Hebrew, the Bible Hub here talks about saub, the definition's gleaming yellow. So Psalm 68, leprous hair, alloyed with silver or of sick skin. Referring to the color of hair or a patch of skin indicating leprosy. So when they talked about gleaming, this states the lighthouse gleamed through the fog. This says glimmer, flash, beam, glow. Down here it's trace, ray, hint, flicker, glimmer, inkling, like ink. When I looked up the word leprous, its effect holds such an enmity with the blood of man. This is weird. It says the largest iteration of Audrey 2 squats upon the stage like a mammoth, leprous frog. This talks about how leprosy can affect the nerves, respiratory tract, skin, and eyes. Also sounds like what radiation can do. Also in Austin's little daily pass picture, he had a lot of cups. When I looked up cups, I came up with this, H-A-I, cusp, cups. And look at this logo. A, or it could be an L-H-R-Q, but look at that, like a needle pulling thread through the Q. H-R, Hillary Rodham. So they talk about cusp, and I'll leave the links to this company, but by Dr. Peter, as in Peter Pan, Pronovost, at John Hopkins in Baltimore, Maryland. Where else have we known or seen anything with John Hopkins University? But this AHRQ, it's 44 is their simple gematria, Georgia, hidden, and mask. But this is interesting because cusp, it says it dramatically reduces clabsy. So I'm looking at that Q looks like a needle pulling through a thread, or the eye of the storm. And then the clabsy, looking at that, it's L basic, and L can equal KIA, or it does equal KIA, dig, KK, caged, phi, as in fee, phi, ka, as in cause, and FCC. And we have Microsoft Basic, which is the foundation software of Microsoft. And of course they have those colors. So look at the AHRQ with the Georgia and hidden mask. We got our little pup mask. So the white hat in this picture isn't there by accident, because here's white hat is brainwash to war, testing, microchip, Wall Street, black power, building 7, and 40 days. And you know, 40 days was where the word quarantine came from, because 40, that's how many days they would quarantine people when they came off a ship. It was 40 days. So definitely looking at their color schemes. And when we look at burgundy, here are the numbers for burgundy, 734 and 92. There's evil, electricity, veil, yellow, Ray is Lord, treason, TikTok, Pentagon, and Ursula. And Ursula is like inky, as in octopus, that Disney character. But when Super Bowl is showing a yellow tide, like a yellow wave, I wonder what that means. And looking at that yellow definition again, and the gleam word came up, and it says glitter, meaning to send forth light. Gleam is used when light shines through something else, and we know the scalar waves can go through everything. But I think it was in Ezekiel, I can't remember, Ezekiel or, let's see, Genesis or Ezekiel, where it says, talks about the gleam of amber. I'll cover that later. And also remember, they talked about opioids a lot. These people were on pharmaceutical drugs, and the opioids was kind of a downfall for both of the Floyd and his girlfriend Ross. And remember, we're on a fringe flag there, so that's maritime law, not common law. Anyhow, I'd be interested as why the judge has an owl taped on the side of his desk in the courtroom. That lawyer's asking her what Floyd's pet name was for her. Mama is the pet name, Mama. Here are the letters for the word mama, and it's code. It's code, a god, mama. So mama is also equivalent to man, is we, Eva, Eden, and lamb, and bank, and ash, and air, and Kabbalah, and fog. So she just mentioned the word football again. After he took opioids, she's just mentioned football. Football was his thing. And here's the word football. Football, end of times. It's like omega. So they're going to take a 20-minute break, and let's ask the judge, why do you have a little owl on your desk? Right there. Why do you have a little owl stuck, a little picture of an owl stuck on your desk by a black cord cable? So looking at the word owl, let's go down here. Interesting. If you look at Ezekiel, I look at this as easy kill. While looking at the prophet Ezekiel here, I noticed the 595 in Gematria. So 595 is Tampa Bay, and that's the Buccaneers who had the Super Bowl 55. That was held at the Raymond James Stadium on February 7th. The nickname for it is also Ray J. So looking down here, that's MK code Enjoy Another. If you look at that, but you got the Daily Show and you got New Energy. So it was the 5th month of the 5th year of the transportation of King Joachim. Looking at that, Joking Hakim. And Hakim is Arabic, the names of the god in Islam, meaning the all-wise. Here, Wikipedia, Hakim indicates a wise man or physician. Look down here, so King Joachim, that the command of the ever-living came to Ezekiel bin Busy. It's Ezekiel bin Busy. You think they're busy with this whole COVID thing? Let's go look at that a little closer. Well, the word nebulize is there, to reduce to a spray, atomize. Speaking of nebulize, this is a picture from my yard I took a couple of months ago. The sky was bluer then than it is now. There's nebulizing. Here's a picture I took from my yard. This looks like a big old cough U, doesn't it? Looks like the middle finger there, or something. Here's some nebulizing with some scalar wave activity thrown in. Look at that little discoloration there. That's some nebulizing that was going on. This is a more recent sky, and notice this was from my yard. That's looks like a big old W, but that looks like some nebulizing going on. See that? Does that look like a normal cloud? No. So they're darn right when they say Ezekiel been busy. Easy kill been busy. Yep, sure have been. And it mentions here the 5th month of the 5th year. That would be 55. Remember the Super Bowl this year was 55. Tom Brady's Gematria numbers just happened to be Alpha and Omega. But in the page 549 of the Spenton Farrar Bible, it talks about a will within a circle, evidently in this form. This almost looks like the pie. And moving above here, it says, so I watched the beans. And the beans can be looked at as the word, the anagram is begins. And I saw a will on the earth at the side of the beans, the begins, at each of their faces. The appearance of these wills and their substance was like the gleam of amber. The form of all four, their appearance and substance was as if a will were within a will. See the number 1 there, the footnote? We're going to go look at that. It says a will within a circle, evidently in this form. And when I look at that form, USAF, here is Air Force One. This is E3 Sentry. Here it is, military.com, equipment E3 Sentry, AWACS. Remember, we look at that as ACAUS. So ACAUS TT equals head dragon, father, pork, liars, lighting, bloodline, Greek omega, forbidden cup. You saw the cup at the George Floyd trial. CERN, Fauci, pain, IMQ. You see how they have the TTs on there? TT. So TT, IMQ, Fauci, table, CERN, pain, Diego, and DARPA, food. DARPA. I already read to you about DARPA, right? So also when they mentioned the sound of a camp in Ezekiel, I looked at last camp fire and Neuralink, tunnel, human blood, Dr. Death, beneath the mask, and electronics came up. Electronics was exact same numbers. The Iron Gate, realization, grandmother. The simple gematria is sandstorm, dark winter, corona vaccine, the Holy Bible, conspiracy, April 10th. That's today. 88 and 411. In the Bible, it also, on the next page, it kept mentioning rebellious family over and over. When I looked at that, if reliable, my soul, and you are loyal misbelief. So maybe that's what they're talking about, the military, I don't know. I also looked at a will within a will. I came up with hee-haw, H-E-I, wallet win. Now I've come up and many times with the H-E-I. I've seen that a lot of times pop up in my anagram, so I'm looking again at that, and I looked at hee-haw as well. The donkeys are the Democrats, so I looked at that. Remember that kid in the Raymond James Stadium? He had this thumbs up, and it was TB was Tom Brady, and it's also Kobe Bryant in Apocalypse. So anyhow, I thought that was funny. Looking at the anagram for Apocalypse, it is lose papacy. And the papacy is the office held by the Pope as the head of the Catholic Church. Look at the key. See the key? See him kneeling? And also, papacy, the office and jurisdiction of the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, Latin papa, Greek papas, father, and we've seen father also means Abba, and we come up with that a lot in the looking at the gematria and anagrams. So lose papacy. But Democrats is the anagram is M redcoats. So M redcoats win wallet. And remember the Super Bowl halftime show? Remember all those redcoats? Looking at HEI, I also found this, the 8th annual, was it On Cinema Oscar special. Now this is strange to me because do you see the network, that logo? It was also on this website, this globalsecurity.org military, where they talk about the E3. This was on their site, clearance jobs. This AWACS had that on their page, ACAUS. And I showed this, how it looked like to me. If you turned it sideways, it looked like a Q, and it also looked like a little devil's pitchfork thing. But isn't that weird how these both have the HEI network and the clearance jobs both have the same logo? If you turn them both on end, they both have that little same pitchfork. Now, why would they have that? And when I looked at the word network was T knower, and it also was KWR tone, and KWR equals NWO and 17, and that equals Corona, COVID, Devil, and Gates. We just can't get away from that guy. Anyhow, here's some more. So when I looked at the on Cinema Oscar special, a complacence cronies, a complacence Christ on, a complacence cries on. Hitting back up to the will within a will, Democrats anagram is M redcoats. And the gematria for M is KKK, Kabbalah, JC, CIA, or ID. There's other ones. But the M Redcoats Win wallet, anyone know where all the money's gone? The trillions and trillions of dollars that our government seems to have pocketed. Anyone know what that is? Maybe that's a Win wallet. And Win wallet is E-twin wall, as in maybe twin towers. But it's funny, I saw this little donkey because I was looking for donkeys, and look at the mosquito up by there. It could be like a little drone. There's your little somewhat looking crow thing, and he's got a big old D. D as in D-Day at the beginning of the end. And bell is also one of the code words that they use all the time. You see that little mosquito coming in like a drone though? Look at his eyes. He looks like he's like in a trance. You got your D for D-Day. I think this is in the initial artist, and that was in Boulder Weekly. But look, he's got blinders on. And it looks like they could also be headphones. So maybe those aren't blinders, maybe they're a headset, and that's why he's looking like he's in a trance. Anyhow, there's your little heads up. And when I looked at the gematria for sound of a camp, this word came up, O-P-H-I-O-U-K-H-O-S, and when I looked at the anagram of that word, it's pi hookups. Isn't that weird? Sound of a camp. That was the first word on the list. The anagram of camp can be CMAP. We can look at it CMAP, CAMP. Here's CAMP, accelerated massive parallelism. When this talks about accelerated massive parallelism, it makes me think of the Mandela effect. Anyhow, back to this. So when I looked at CAMP, and this came up too, Jing Jang, internment camp. An RFA listener provided a copy of a confidentiality agreement requiring re-education camp detainees not to discuss the workings of the camps, and said local residents were instructed to tell members of re-education camp inspection teams visiting number 2 re-education camp that there was only one camp in the country. And then when I looked at this word, Xinjiang, it's a jinxing. Internment camps, officially called vocational education and training centers by the government of China, are internment camps operated by Xinjiang, Uyghur, whatever, autonomous region government and its Chinese Communist Party. Wow. I mean, unless that's CGI. So this says, for years now the Western media and governments have maintained an almost ceaseless barrage against China over what they claim are networks of internment camps built and used in China's western Xinjiang region. Yet the biggest lie of all is the lie of omission, hyping, exaggerating, and even fabricating stories about China's abuse of these people. This says Xinjiang is the epicenter of bloody terrorism protected by Western media silence. There is bloodshed in April 2013, and in June that year, 27 people died in Shanshan County after police opened fire on what state media described as a mob armed with knives attacking local government buildings. So, sounds like the Capitol Hill. Anyhow, sounds like there's a lot of deaths. 27, 90, 79, 31, 50, 96. So back to that Xinjiang internment camps, a jinxing, bad luck that appears to have been caused by a specific person or thing. That's jinxing. A pie soul. He was a pie soul. Also, when this says C map, we just can't get away from him. Look at this. Here he is with a little map behind him. So we got the Xinjiang internment camp. We've got him with a C map. We've got the internment camps meaning a jinx, and that's a person that appears to have caused a specific person or thing bad luck. A pie soul. The C-amp came up with this, the CRIP camp, a disability revolution. And So this says a groundbreaking summer camp galvanizes a group of teens with disabilities to help build a movement forging a new path towards greater equality. You know, you can look at that anagram, Pi, C, cramp. If you look at it like that, the Pisces, the fish, it could be like a little camp that basically we're going to be like packed like sardines, perhaps, maybe. You think? You think they got an appetite for sardines? Fish? Fish is referred to, fish as people. Captain Hook is codfish and fish is panic, and they like to make people panic. So I don't see this is too far from facts. Yep, they're going to scoot us and scurry us along to the little internment camps and pack us in like sardines. Crip camp is also, so PM capric, and caprit is of or pertaining to a goat. I wonder what that's about. But back to this little movie thing on Netflix, Crip camp. Now I've got some teacher friends who are going back to school and they're doing training right now. And they said that they were only allowing like 200 kids in at a time, and said that they are going to be letting the ones with disabilities in, like the called adaptive kids. So a group of teens with disabilities to help build a movement, forging a new path towards greater equality. Crip camp. You might want to look at your local schools, the middle schools, because that's probably what they're going to start doing. They're going to be using these kids. This right here is deeper than we know. Also, when you look at camp and it's C map, do you remember the daily pass thing where the kids have to electronically verify that they've had their COVID test and passed? That daily pass, it showed this Microsoft representative guy, and look, he's got a map behind him too, along with the guitar, target, guitar. It's not really guitar, but it's a stringed instrument. So I'm just looking at some of the words that this lawyer mentioned, and opioids is PUID. So when I look at the word Winnie the Pooh, I, non-white hope. So would that be I'm black hope, like Black Lives Matter? So I went and looked at our little Pooh Bear friend. There's trumpets. There's a little butterfly like the MK Ultra, and here's this, still doesn't wear pants, and yep, he still doesn't wear pants, so I wanted to look at that. So the anagrams is sprint, a walled test on, and you know when we look at the wall, it means lethal W, which is, what is that, could be Washington or wires, who knows, the wall. It could be owls transplanted ties, and we saw that owl in that judge's courtroom with the wire, that cord. That could also be Sprint Wasteland's toll. Definition is a tax or fee paid for some liberty or privilege. And we know Sprint's rolling out the 5G with the rest of the telecommunication companies. And it can also mean DARPA's owl's silent net. I looked at the word net. Let's see, administrative divisions of Pohnpei State, Micronesia. And I found this little island, which was interesting. See that word there? Pohnpei, a pawn, so pawn, a stone altar. So a stone altar, that's P-E-I. I went and looked at EPI, and it also could be looked at as pi. And EPI is also Economic Policy Institute. So of course they talk about the experts, but also EPI, PIE, pi, these are the numbers. Cola, beer, pie, line, Geico, Bible, Alice, map, arc, Mamba as in Kobe, the black mamba, beard, and Blackbeard as in dark cable. Blackbeard anagram is actually B dark cable. Now Geico was a sponsor to the Super Bowl 55 at the James Raymond Stadium in Florida. And if anyone has seen the video I did regarding the Super Bowl beer, they had a lot of breweries was part of the decoding. On this pi thing, it said 158 degrees, so I looked at that. 158, the number, is goat, Muhammad, the Kabbalah, command, and handler. Joss Bivens or Bivens is J bovines, and J is either lions or AI. Daniel Costa is de-escalation, as in D-Day, the beginning of the end. Remember Operation Warp Speed? And that would be Alpha and Omega. And that map and those islands, at the islands, those net islands, Caroline Island, like Sweet Caroline. I'll just interrupt. This guy, I think he may be one of the ambulance or EMT people that came up on the scene. He's talking about blood and breathing. Anyhow, he's being interviewed right now, still with the yellow V. So here it is, yellow ribbon, 1578, 152. So murder of crows. And that's just significant to me because I keep coming up with the word cause. So they're talking about the medical stuff right now. And there's still an owl in the background. Sounds like he's explaining why they rushed off and didn't do CPR right there. I don't know. I haven't listened right now, but they're going to play a clip right now for him to watch regarding when he came up on the scene. And I guess he's the ambulance driver, the EMT. They're saying get off his neck because he's not breathing right now at all. And the people in the background are saying get off his neck, get off his neck. And Chauvin, whatever his name is still on his neck. Look at that. Still kneeling on him. Remember the Game of Thrones? Take a knee. Think that has anything to do with this? This is Officer King's body cam, and he even mentions that he thinks that Floyd passed out. And those officers stayed on him even when the ambulance drivers were there. They're just now getting up. Look, there's urine. Now this is something I want to show you. And I'm going to slow it down later. But watch this. We won't see part of his head. It's weird. It's going a little fast now. That's too fast. Here, I'm going to show it to you slow motion. Watch this. Watch the head. Here, coming in to the right. Look at, where is he? Look at that. There's no head there. Now the camera, he looks away. So who knows what happens here? I mean, with all the photography stuff, whatever. But now look, all of a sudden, he's got a head. Here we go. Even his arm, though, looks like it's disappeared on his right arm. All right. Oh, and look at the, watch for the devil horns, too. And that, the numbers up there, they want you to see everything. Even earlier, when they had Floyd in front of this dragon walk, and dragon walk equals 55, by the way. Dragon Walk also equals Project Mockingbird. So there's the murderer. There's the devil horns, just got flashed. So just a real quickie, here's George Floyd, here's his picture. And so I go to this company and they've got this guy. They can do fake body parts, special order. But here they are. I mean, that's pretty lifelike. So I'm not saying one way or the other because I truly don't know. But when I see gaps in the photography and the images, it just makes me kind of wonder, you know, it just creates a question in my mind, like what's real? And here's a thing of Chauvin's. He's writing this down. Look, it says 443 blood. So if that's by design, who knows? And then in one of the exhibits, this guy, he's playing with his ring. This is King, who's playing with his ring while they're trying to get Chauvin out of the vehicle. So here's some words associated with the word ring. There's evil and blood. There's wall. Okay, so here's a picture of Floyd. And do you see predominant tattoo on him? It looks like it's some kind of eagle or bird in flight or something. But anyhow, that's him. And I'm sure it doesn't just stop right there. Okay, so now here's another image. There's that same tattoo. You can see it very easily. They even point out the tattoo. But when I'm looking at this footage here, when he's in the ambulance on this Officer King's body cam, I think it's Officer King, I don't see a tattoo. Look, does anyone see any markings at all of a tattoo on George Floyd? At all? And you'll see that this, look at nothing on his chest. And this, she wants them to cut it off because she knows that there's no tattoo on that dummy. All right, so they're walking through that clip, she said. Okay, so sorry, back to this, but this pronunciation of a stone altar is pe. Almost sounds like pig. So back to Ezekiel there, it talks about the form of all four. Advancing, they advance towards the four quarters, which there are four quarters in the football game, right? Super Bowl 55 had four quarters. Some more of still doesn't wear pants. It could also be sprint, a walled Stetson. And looking at Stetson, it says it's a brand of hat manufactured, which they did mention a red hat in this jury trial right now. But the pioneering American West, the boss of the plains. What about him? In this article I see, it says perspective, Bill Gates owns a lot of farmland, but that's probably not a bad thing. This was this year by her, so she's pretty, so you won't think about the content, but anyhow, so probably not. Ends up being LN booby trap, and LN equals KO. That would be a knockout, because we're talking about farmland where people are, growing crops for food, right? So LN also equals knee and the KO, and a pie and foe, and I'm seeing a lot of V, Phi, foe. It's starting to look like the giant is in part of a little nursery rhyme thing. So probably not LN booby trap, and we know about the knee. So I look at the boss of the plains. Could it be plains like that, plains? Boss of the plains can also be I boss of the plans. So to Ezekiel, easy kill, a wheel within a circle. And looking at that sign, which is pi, P-H-I, a wheel within a circle. It also means pi, the mathematical, that symbol means no solution. But this also, that is the E3 Centuries, modified Boeing 707-320. It's held 11 feet, 3.33 meters. All the numbers kind of fall into the lines of the typical lettering we see when you look at the Cabal stuff, but that's the radar. So this is the Boeing E3 Century. The Boeing E-300 is an American airborne early warning and control system. It's a control system. So when you look at AWACS also, it could be a cause. And cause is sound crows make, the caw-caw sound, which we see all the time, cause. They refer to that flock as a murder. So could a cause equals the murder? This says the aircraft provides an accurate real-time picture of the battle space to Joint Air Operations Center. This is all altitude, all weather of the battle space and early warning of enemy actions during joint allied and coalition operations. It gave a related link there, so I'm going to go look at this, the DVIDS page. And this is the picture of the DVIDS page, and look at that. Does that look like a little fan? Defense Visual Information Distribution Service. So look at the fan. So when we see it still doesn't wear pants, DARPA owls Nestle's tent, and tent is a definition is usually slight or pale, which can kind of take us back up to Winnie the Pooh is I non-white hope. That's opposite of pale. But tent here, tent is a trusted enterprise user-generated content platform to tell your story through the voice of fans. So the voice of fans, come down here and we see our little DVIDS fans. Where else do we find fans? So talk about fans here in the stadium. This is Super Bowl. Here's some of the cutouts that they were showing. And we talk about TB, which is Tom Brady, and Rays. TB Rays. So when I look at the anagram for TB Rays, which is what they're showing us in this little fan shot of all these bleachers. And we're looking at this because we were sent to this, and they have the little sign of fans. And looking at Gematria, what RY means, that's RY, is Floyd. So maybe that's why they keep mentioning football during this trial. So that's Floyd. And it's also God number code. So we go back to the Bible, and it's declare the end of time, which is we go back to Omega. And we also have the word Q, which is part of this whole TB, the ray, bats RY. And looking at the TB rays, bats RY and RY again. We look at number 43, and it also goes to Mark. Here we're cutting back to the body camera of George Floyd when they were trying to do CPR. Where are his tattoos? There's not any tattoo markings. They're talking about the Lucas device right now. Now the Lucas device does like a hand CPR. I've seen that work. So Lucas does the chest compression system, Stryker. So here's Lucas. You look at the lettering for that too. It's Lucas. Could be L cause, which is what this thing that looks like the pi symbol. Warning control system, or A cause. So anyhow, when we look at the drama of April Fool's Day here, she's got the heart. Heart means hater also. We see the little J she drew on Floyd's face. J equals end of days, zoo. J also equals AI and CDC. We look at the owl that's pasted on the side of his desk by a cable cord for some reason. So do you notice how everyone has hand wash things by everyone has these little hand washers by them. Hand washer. We got the hand wash there. Also, so look at this. This is March 31st, and there's some stick in the corner. Because stick here, look at the numbers 212 and 62, stick is Floyd and Alpha X. They're all 62. And poop and black magic is also 62. It's 86 and 62. And germs, which would kind of go with the hand washing things you see at everyone's desk. And riot is also 62. White rims just happens to be the end of time, ultimate end, shutdown, the radiation, the phoenix, that's a big one, out of time, electrical field, and Alice in Wonderland. So notice here too, she has a blue ribbon. The blue ribbon that goes with the yellow ribbon. Blue ribbon. So blue ribbon, and also 100 also happens to equal Black Mamba, like Kobe Bryant, who was also part of a sacrificial ritual. A ritual, just like the Super Bowl 55 was a ritual in their halftime. And interesting too, because the blue ribbon, also KY, Kentucky, and if you look at Kentucky right now, there's some cases, I think 12 cases of Ebola. So interesting too that hospital is also blue ribbon, but if you look at hospitals, plural, you have the art of death faking, and you have that. It could look like crows. You have adrenochrome like fox, and you have George Floyd, which is also 119 like hospitals, plural. Okay, you got a little football huddle going on there. And you still got the stick there. You got a purple tie. Another purple in there in that tie. This is the day 3 trial, March 31st. So coming up at 5:52, watch, they're going to review some more footage, and you'll see a blue ribbon around this store. I think he's the manager. Now remember, blue ribbon is ritual. Now these officers are going in the store. And you'll notice the manager has a blue ribbon around his neck. Okay, so this is camera 2, and you see definite tattoos on Floyd's chest. This is the same officer, but yet where are Floyd's tattoos? And also when they showed the clip of this situation, Floyd was being very dramatic, very begging, and yet his friend acted as if he didn't even hear him. So it kind of makes me wonder if that was superimposed. Somehow this doesn't seem right. And look at the pressure point. Seems very fake to me. And there's a much darker tone on Floyd's face than in the first shot. And then his friend looks totally unconcerned. Okay, so in this clip they show the red hat, and the red hat was even mentioned, I think it was on day 3, but red hat also has the numerical equivalent to drone, begins, all giant, thread as in needle pulling thread, beast, big pharma, April as in today, April 4/4 here, the end, and tried as in this trial, he was tried, and gas fire. And we look at things that kind of lead us down a little path. And we look at anagrams, which can also equal DARPA's silent owl T-net, and T is, go back to Bible code, there's Black Mamba, IT is information technology, and T can also be target and tango, which could be us. And we look at other things that lead us to the boss of the planes, or boss of plans, or we look at the planes that they've got overhead, and we look at the signs. And we look at other things that add up. And it just all comes around full circle. Talk about a wheel within a circle, you guys. Pi, pi, pi. So all the signs they keep showing us, we have to wake up. Yes, we do. We've got to wake up. So I'll continue on my next video. We'll continue the Alpha and Omega.